we are back. It's episode 12 of the Find Me in Seattle podcast. Thank you very much for joining me for another weekly episode of the show. It is Friday, February 7th, 2020, and it was a very interesting week for me this week, mostly because last weekend, right after I did the podcast, I actually did the podcast on Thursday, because I needed to make an emergency trip to North Idaho to go visit my family, which was a very emotional trip, and got back on Sunday, and it just haven't been able to emotionally catch up into the week just yet with some other things going on. But it's already Friday, and we're back. So it's another show, and I've been stuck on what I was going to talk about this week. I've got my meal of the week. I got feature business of the week. I'm actually excited to talk about both of those things. But then I was like, all right, we got to do this news rundown. What are we going to talk about? So the first big thing that I should talk about is, in previous episodes, we talked about the shooting here in Seattle and the two suspects that were on the loose still. They caught those suspects, and they caught them in Las Vegas, which they got a long way. There was an article, I haven't been able to read it yet, but there is an article about one, I believe, a girlfriend helped kind of smuggle them out, get them out into Las Vegas, but we did catch them. Shout out to all of the detectives and police who got those two people under arrest. Terrible thing that they did, and I hope they get what they deserve when it comes to the issues that they cause here in downtown Seattle. But then a little bit about me. I taught this class on Wednesday for one of my clients, and it was a class on Instagram. And for most of you listening, you've probably met me because of Instagram and all the content that I've been creating now for almost 4 years on Instagram behind Find Me in Seattle. And so I had to give a 1-hour class about Instagram with all these different real estate brokers, and some were experienced, some had never even downloaded Instagram before. And so I was really stuck on how do you teach an app, a social media, in 1 hour when you have this diverse group of people who have different experience with the platform. And what I learned was Instagram is so much more complicated than I even realized. I think I'm just so used to being on the platform and so used to just engaging on social media altogether that I haven't really thought that it is 3 different platforms all in one. And so there's the timeline. That's what Instagram started. And a little fun fact, I actually bought my first iPhone. This must have been 2012. I bought my first iPhone because it had Instagram. My old roommate was a big iPhone user, loved Instagram and the editing tools, and I remember you could add borders and filters to the photo, and I just thought that was incredible. And when I was upgrading on my phone plan, I specifically went for the iPhone because Instagram was only on iPhone. And then 4 months later, they dropped it on Android and got bought for $1 billion right after that. So that completely changed. But it's always funny to think back on the business that I'm building, and which is attributed a ton to Instagram, is the reason that I got an iPhone, and I made a big phone decision just because of this one app, and to see me be able to build a business and build a brand and create this community based off that is pretty amazing to see how far we've come in 7 years since that happened. But back to this class that I was giving. So when they launched, they had the timeline. The timeline was the static feed. At the beginning, they didn't even have videos, and then they rolled out videos that were capped at 1 minute. And so there's all the dynamics that happen there on the feed about how you should post, when you should post, what kind of hashtags should you use, what should the content look like, how do you engage with people, how do you search, location tags, all of those little details. That's one part of the platform. Then we talk about stories, right? And you got to go to the history of stories and how they copied Snapchat with the full screen look, being able to tap to skip through the stories. And then they've added all these stickers, which really make stories so much more creative and unique, where every story slide is so different on everybody's page, because you have GIFs and you have location tags, and you can tag businesses or people, and you can add stickers, right? For me, I always put the day of the sticker. It's my first post on story every single day. It's always a time lapse with some type of music. I've now recently been adding the lyrics of the music, which take another extra piece of creative thinking to think, what kind of lyrics do I want to put out here to express myself? And then you got all the filters, and there's just so many things to stack on it. So that's a whole nother platform, right? Instagram stories is Snapchat as a whole. And then they came out last year with IGTV and them trying to compete with YouTube. And it's this long form content. They want it to be vertical portrait mode, opposed to the horizontal style, which is what YouTube is all like, which is just a pain in the ass for creators. And what most people have gone to do is, if you're creating YouTube videos, you post the YouTube video, you make a full length one, you put the captions above and below so it fits in Instagram. And so it's mind blowing how big this was. And I'm 30 minutes into this hour class, and I'm just like, I need to do this class. This class should probably be 4 independent hours where we can go down and break down all the specifics of each individual platform. And I think that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to develop for this client for next time. Is we'll do like an Instagram 101. Here are the basics, here's everything that's going, and then we'll go into timeline and talk all about the details of timeline and how important that is. We'll give everyone a week. We'll let them start posting on the timeline, engaging, searching, trying to build up some basic engagement principles, and then we'll go to stories, right? And stories, what I always explain, is really about depth. The timeline is how you find new people, how you get discovered. It's really like your billboard. People are going to come to your page, or let's call it your storefront, and they're going to look at all the photos there in the table. They're going to look at your description. They might look at your link. They'll look at your name. They'll look at your profile badge. They might look at how many followers you have, and they'll make a judgment. Do I want to follow or do I not follow? Once they do follow, story is where you can go and actually go deep with these people. You can take them on a daily journey, show more of your personality within the 24-hour spectrum, where you don't have to be so clean and perfect like you do on the timeline. Story is really about where you can express yourself a little bit more creatively and just build that depth. Get people to know who you are. And then there's IGTV, which is just a behemoth. I'm not even telling anyone to put anything over there unless they're ready for it and they're already creating long-form content, because I don't think that IGTV's been super successful yet, because people aren't trained psychologically to go to Instagram and sit there for 5 minutes to 30 minutes like they are. When you go on YouTube, you know you can get lost in there for hours, and that's really the expectation. But when you go to Instagram, you've been trained for 5 to 7, 8 years now that it's quick consumption, double tap to like, keep swiping, go on to the next thing. And so I think it's taken them a while to go there. And then there's the formatting difficulty with IGTV. So it's given this class, and I just learned a lot about how much I take for granted, how comfortable I am in that platform and understanding what's going on and being able to communicate and jump between all of them. It was really opened up my eyes. So I'm kind of crazy by how comfortable I am from being in Twitter to jumping into Instagram and going to Facebook and going to TikTok and living all over this. It just has to be super overwhelming for someone who's just trying to learn about what's going on and what are their kids doing over here on all these different platforms. But it was a good experiment. If you got any more tips for me for Instagram, let me know. I'm curious about what you've done, or if you taught any classes, if you've had the same difficulty. And so the one last news article that I wanted to talk about here came from the Evergrey. I talk about the Evergrey here all the time on the show because they send you an email 5 days a week in the top of your inbox. It always has some trending story, but they do a good job polling the community and getting feedback from the audience about different things. And something that I thought was creative this week was they ask, related to working out and New Year's resolutions, if you needed some workout inspo to get back into the game, what would be the most Seattle workout ever? And whenever I see what's the most Seattle thing ever, I always get interested because we're just so weird. And I think every city's like this, but Seattleites have their own quirkiness. And one of the ones, race the monorail, I thought that was actually pretty good. Pretty much impossible. Also, what is that? It's 4th Avenue. Probably not the safest place to be running as well. But I bet if you were in like an electric scooter, maybe you could race it. The monorail gets up to a high speed. You see it drive over you when you're sitting there in traffic. You could definitely beat some cars down that street, but not the monorail. But I thought that was really clever. There are like 1,000,001 different staircases around the city. I thought those are like actual places where you could go work out. And someone said, wear socks and sandals and run through Pike Place Market, and extra points if you stop to seed the right of way. And I don't know where the socks with sandals thing is. That, I guess that's a Seattle thing. I don't know if that really is. I don't see that often with the rain. Like, who's wearing socks with sandals? I like never wear sandals at all, except for like 1 month. It's like 3 days a year that I wear sandals. And vegan beer, hot yoga, that was a good one. But this is the winner. This comes from James O'Neill. And once again, shout out to the Evergrey for providing this information. And this is a long one, so get ready. So he says, bike the waterfront, climb Queen Anne Stairs, skip across the Fremont Bridge, eat a paseo at the Troll, launch a kayak and paddle through the locks, smoke a bowl at Golden Gardens, ride the Burke Gilman Trail to Woodinville, elbow exercises through wineries, hunt for Nordstrom at Redmond Town Center, and don't forget, you got to get coffee at every single stop. Shout out to you, James O'Neill. I just thought that was just like ridiculously clever. He spent some time thinking about all those kind of things. And he covered the entire city from Fremont all the way, or Fremont Ballard all the way to Redmond Town Center and Woodinville. Bravo. Shout out to you, James. Shout out to you, the Evergrey. That was one of my favorite things that you guys put out this week. And so now it's time for my meal of the week and the featured business of the week. And so my meal of the week goes to, I actually didn't have a lot of meals this week that I highlighted, but there was one really special one. And I don't do this often, but I feel like all my meals of the week have not really been in Seattle lately. But I think I'm starting this segment, and I've been doing this for years now, and so I'm trying to venture out. But I went out to Kenmore, and first off, I was really shocked at how developed Kenmore has, just how far it's come. There were coffee shops and businesses and all those brand new condos that we all know and see everywhere, and it's kind of got like this vibrant little community there and a bunch of different restaurants. And I visited a place called Seaplane Kitchen and Bar, and Seaplane was started by the same team that in Ballard owns and runs Bastille and Stoneburner. So I actually had some pretty high expectations because those are strong outposts in Ballard and really popular businesses. So when I get to Seaplane, first, the aesthetic of the entire place was just beautiful. They have this obviously seaplane feel, lots of wood. They have this huge mural of mountains and the ocean, and I just thought it was clever, the name Seaplane, because Kenmore has this seaplane and kind of, I don't know what to call it, dynamic of those boat planes coming through the water there. I don't know what I'm saying there. But what I was showing off was the on-the-fly dinner to go. Now, because I live in downtown Seattle, driving all the way to Kenmore to pick up this food and drive it all the way back, I just didn't think that was a great idea. It maybe not apply so well for you, but anyone living in Bothell or North Seattle, Lake City Way, obviously Kenmore, or maybe even Bellevue, Redmond, this might be a better option. But it's called the on-the-fly dinner to go, and they have two options for you. First, you can get 8 pieces of fried chicken, and the fried chicken was super good. It wasn't like overly crunchy, which I really like, but the skin kind of peeled off. I thought it had really good flavor, and the sauce, what was the sauce that they brought with it? It was a burnt honey mustard, and it came with mac salad, which is just so good. And you can get 8 pieces of chicken and a choice of a veggie and a salad, and it's $28, which ain't bad for that much food. That's gonna feed 2 people. So if you have 2 people, it's $14 a person. That's really not bad at all. And then the other option they have is they also serve wood-fired pizza. So you can get 2 pizzas and your choice of a salad. And they got a bunch of different styles of salad there as well. And that is $39. The pizzas were really hearty. The one that I just posted recently here on Instagram, or you can check it there on my story. I got the crosswire pizza. And the crosswire pizza had red sauce, meatballs, roasted peppers and onions, provolone, and then they drizzled a swirl of cheese sauce around the pizza, kind of like in a spiral outside, and it was so good. I had this huge meal there, so I had leftovers pretty much 2 days in a row, after I ate there, was eating this chicken and the pizza, and it was just phenomenal. So shout out to you guys, Seaplane Kitchen and Bar in Kenmore. You guys are my featured meal of the week. You guys treated me really well. It was a great time. If you're ever over there on that north part of Lake Washington, you should check them out. It was really good. Great experience. Had a great time. And thanks for having me there. I appreciate you guys a lot. All right, now on to my featured business of the week. And this is why I called it the featured business of the week, because I knew it was always going to be different. In the spirit of it being February and it being Black History Month, I wanted to highlight a team called Intentionalist. And so Intentionalist, you can look them up at intentionalist.com. And what they are is they have created a community here in Seattle, and they have a website that lists all of the minority-owned businesses on their website. So you can be intentional about where you spend your money, right? And you can commit your money that you're spending within retail and restaurants at the communities that you want to support. And we can kind of build up some of these underrepresented minority-owned businesses here in the city. And I just think they're awesome. Laura, the founder there, I've met with her a bunch of times. I had dinner with her. She's just a kind-hearted, well-spirited person. And I just really admire that they've created this platform to get the word out there to say, here are some options for you. So right now they have an article out about specifically Black-owned businesses, and I figured why not shout this out for my featured business of the week in spirit of Black History Month. So I was kind of going through the list. They have a list. They have 146 different businesses listed here, and that was way more than I expected, which I think is a great thing. And going through this list, just thinking about some of the businesses that I know and that I've interacted with, and honestly, I haven't been conscious of this. I'm guilty of not thinking more about who, even though I'm always about who's behind these businesses, about being, am I being diverse? Am I showing different places off? So the Intentionalist is a great resource to go and think about these things and where you're spending your money. So some of the businesses that I wanted to highlight that I've personally eaten at and that I really like, that isn't the really famous James Beard Award winning ones that we all know about, who gets all the hype and all of the excitement in the city. I'm not talking about that place, because you can pretty much hear about him and his food, which is really good, all over. But first, let's talk about Trey and his restaurant Jerk Shack in Belltown. They've got this Caribbean flair, beautiful flavors, fun environment. Sometimes they got music in there. It's always so lively. That's probably the best place about eating at Jerk Shack. And jerk chicken, just you can't beat it here in Seattle. So make sure, go support them. Jerk Shack, one of my favorite spots really in the city in general. And in the summer, they got this awesome back patio. They usually got some really good summer style cocktails that are delicious. Another spot, it's under new ownership, but Poco Wines in Capitol Hill. Big shout out to them. Their mac and cheese there, absolutely phenomenal, along with cocktails and wine and everything you would expect there. Fat's Chicken and Waffles, I think, is absolutely delicious. I got this fried chicken breakfast sandwich there last time I ate there, and it was just so cheesy and so delicious. And yeah, one of my favorite sandwiches that I've had in Seattle. Conscious Eatery, you should check them out. They're doing a lot of incredible stuff. I gotta show off Conscious Eatery. I'll put that in the back of my mind. I gotta show them off. And Plum Pantry, which is in Seattle Center. Also, there's a coffee shop right outside the Beacon Hill light rail station called The Station. That would be a great place to go support, especially if you're buying coffee and you're taking the light rail. And then I actually didn't know this, but Cafe Champagne, is it Champagne? No way. It's Cafe Champagne. It's got to be. I actually have never fact checked if that's how you say it, but I actually didn't even know that it was a Black-owned business. So shout out to them. I thought that was really cool. And yeah, The Intentionalist, they're my featured business of the week. They are making sure that you're intentional about where you go spend your money here around the city. And they're just a business that I want you to support and you to know about and you to check out. So if you're ever looking for ideas about, hey, where should we go to dinner tonight? Or I need to get these flowers, or I need to get something, why not check them out at intentionalist.com and find out more about where you're going to spend your money and who you're going to contribute to, and how you're going to build up those communities, because I think it's a wonderful service. And shout out to you, Laura. You've created something absolutely beautiful, and I'm a big supporter, and you guys should check it out too. Well, that's it. That's episode 12 here of the Find Me in Seattle podcast. I've got an exciting weekend coming up. I'm taking dance lessons this weekend. I don't think I'll film it. It'll probably be on my Instagram story. But I got a wedding coming up in March, and so I got to learn like something about a dance. What else do I have going on? Nothing to note here within the podcast, but thank you very much for listening to the show every single week. I always appreciate you dearly. If you have any suggestions, you have featured businesses that you want me to shout out, or you have any interesting news going on that you think is worth sharing, you can tweet me, Instagram me, email me. Check out my website at findmeinseattle.com or at findmeinseattle, pretty much everywhere else. And I'd love to hear from you. If you got any feedback, you know I'm always asking for that. And yeah, thank you very much. I hope you enjoy your February 7th. We got Valentine's Day next week. This is always a crazy month for me, just to go off a little tangent. I got Valentine's Day next week. I got my 7-year anniversary with my fiance the Friday after that. And then the Friday after that is her birthday. So February's always been an intense week for me, or I'm sorry, intense month for me, because I got Valentine's Day, birthday, and my anniversary all in 3 weeks in a row. And yeah, it's always fun. So I should have some good things coming down the pipeline, because I got to plan all those things. But have a great evening, day, whenever you're listening to this. If you're working out, great workout, great drive, all those fun things. I love you lots.